So in pursuit of my next welding project, I came across this thing that I saw on Pinterest, and I thought it was kind of an interesting table, kind of easy to do. So I thought, I think I can build this, and that was going to be my next project. So first thing is got to do a jig, got to get it all welded up, and then go into the part about sanding and grinding and cleaning up the welds, and you end up with this base frame. So the two poles coming out of the end are support for the wood, which I wanted to make sure I had a free floating piece of wood rather than attaching it to the table. So that's what those two bars are coming out of the edge. Before we glued up the wood, we went ahead and routed these slides in here, and so the whole entire thing slides onto the bars and it becomes basically a tabletop level to the top edge of the metal frame, as you can see here. Upon completion of the metal work and the wood, next step was to send it off to the powder coaters. So what you've got here is a black crinkle finish. This is actually similar to what they use on the side of a Harley Davidson transmission cover. And anyway, give a nice texture to it, and of course cleaned up all of the edges. $70 later, and this is what you end up with. So I'm pretty pleased with it. So when it had come time to do the wood finishing, I have heard about a process called Shishugibon. A friend of mine that I used to work with, her husband and her moved to Homer, Alaska, and they did their whole entire outside cladding of the home in this process. It's called Shishugibon. Shishugibon means to heat with fire. Shishugibon is a traditional Japanese method of wood preservation. It is also used as a treatment for home exteriors as well as a finish for contemporary furnishings. By slightly charring the surface of the wood without combusting the whole entire piece, the wood becomes waterproof through carbonization, and thus it's more durable. It also protects against insects. Once the wood was charred, the next thing needed was to raise the wood grain. There are many ways to achieve this, and I chose a wire brush attachment to the electric drill, and then ran that up and down to remove some of the char. This brings back the wood grain, and then the dye will be used to create the contrast. A couple more rounds of sanding using electric palm sander and 220 grit sanding paper. You just keep repeating until you find the look that you're after. It's totally a choice on what you want to do, and the ability to create the look based on how you're going to finish the wood is really where it ends up. For my project, I wanted to use a water-based stain that would color the wood blue, as I was after a contemporary look instead of a traditional staining. I ended up watching a lot of YouTube videos, and then this is the dye and the clear coat that I decided to go with, and they're both water-based stain, so you just applied them with sponge brushes and that was it. I believe I got about $11 in this purchase. I had never used this water-based dye, and after watching some YouTube videos, it was very clear that applying the stain, letting it sit for a little bit, then wiping it down determined how dark the stain would interact with the wood grain. So from my thought process, I just looked at it and flipped a coin. I decided to do the bottom of the tabletop first and just kept working it until it started to be too dark. Then once I found what I thought was over the edge and too dark, I dialed it back and did a few less stainings as I applied the formula and put that on the top finish surface. So here's the finished table. It's a little bit different in dimension from the piece that I saw on Pinterest, but that's okay because I wanted to customize it to fit my needs. I'm pretty happy with the wood finish. I would have liked a little bit more blue, but I learned as I went along, and I look forward to continuing this journey of just having some fun and making stuff. Big shout out of thanks to my friends Ben and John, who are the fabrication wizards that are always helping me out. John especially for letting me use his wood tools, and he gave me actually all of the wood, so thanks, John. And let me know in the comments if you like this table, and I look forward to continuing down and making some more stuff.